My name is Mike Hines, and I am a developer evangelist here at the Amazon App Store. And one of the interesting things that I learned after coming back from Casual Connect Asia last week is that about half of all the traffic that you're going to get and half the downloads you're going to get are going to come from non-paid traffic or non-paid downloads. What that means is that half the downloads you're going to get are going to come organically from people landing on or finding your product's listing page, your product detail page on an app store. Now, this is particularly critical if you are selling a premium game, because this is a last chance for you to convince a player to part with well-earned money before they can try out your game for free. And certainly, the opportunity to promote your app here is a critical part of the process. And I wanted to go over some of the things that we've seen in the Amazon App Store and kind of share with you what is and isn't working there. First of all, I would like to start with just some block and tackle. To ask questions, go ahead and use the questions and answer box that should be at the bottom of your screen there. Go ahead and type in questions. We will get to the questions at the end of the presentation. And the presentation and the deck will be made available to you after the webcast, probably about 24 hours later. We will go ahead and send you a notice that the presentation is available for download along with that slide deck. So what are we finding that's working and not working? Well, if get rich quick sounds good to you, you might actually like to hear about some of the sneaky things that we've learned about. If multi-level marketing sounds like a great replacement for doing a lot of original hard work yourself, then you might actually really like some of these sneaky tips that we're going to share with you that we've seen in our App Store. The first sneaky tip is to mislead people. Holy cow. Coming up with your own brand is hard. And why come up with your own brand when you can borrow somebody else's? Don't bother coming up with something creative. Why don't you make Minecraft instead of Minecraft? Change a few colors on a few pixels, and hey, maybe it'll be a week or two before the app stores find out what you're doing and pull your app down. Hey, it's just a little misleading, and if they actually read carefully, they wouldn't be confused at all, right? Another misleading thing that you can do that might lead to more downloads is rip off a famous celebrity name. And by rip off, I mean go ahead and copy and paste their picture from the web, post it all over your marketing, and tell people that so-and-so really likes playing games like yours. Okay, technically you didn't lie. You never really said they were playing your game, but it certainly is misleading and is sneaky trick number 2. Sneaky trick number 3. Sneaky trick number 3 is bribery. Hey, everyone likes a game that has a lot of good 5-star reviews. But if your game can't earn a 5-star review, why not bribe someone to write one? Heck, why not bribe a lot of people to write them? Heck, it's effective. It could be more effective than paid users, and hey, everyone sure likes that. But that can get really nasty, and that is something that we frown upon and explicitly prohibit in our terms of use in the App Store. If we find out that you've done this, we will actually pull your developer account. So instead of bribing people, some people try to be sneaky by writing bots to do the same thing. It turns out this is also a sneaky trick that's also prohibited in our App Store, but it sure is fun to find a whole bunch of 4 and 5-star reviews come in from the same IP block within about 30 seconds of each other. That's a good signal that someone is trying to be really sneaky at getting more downloads from their App Store. Now, just in case my sarcasm isn't coming through, don't try these things. These are things that we've seen some people try to get away with, and it's just not worth it. Quite frankly, the selling your integrity is a bad idea. It almost never works in developing users that will stay with you for a long time or stay engaged. So you end up with very short-term users that don't monetize well, probably get really upset with you. And it risks having your developer account blocked at any of the app stores in which you might try some of these sneaky tricks. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that it's hard to do these things. Sneaky tricks jeopardize your revenue and ruin your reputation, but you've still got to get discovered, don't you? Discovery is still one of the biggest problems in the App Store today. But app stores are working to try and make this better. App stores are coming up with manually curated lists of games we think customers would like, automated lists of games that are similar to ones that you may have liked in the past, recommendations, people who like these games also like those games, and showcases bundles and promotions where you can get a bundle of first-person shooter games or a bundle of tower defense games, and maybe get some Amazon coins in there to sweeten the deal for in-app purchasing. So app stores are taking steps to help discovery, but honestly, what you can do is going to make the biggest difference. One of the things that is going to help a lot is be distinctive and create value. Now, you can be distinctive and create value and forget to tell people, and that would be worse. That would be actually really terrible. And if you created something that was distinct and had value, but you forgot to tell anyone, then you would actually be having to, pay a tax for being unremarkable. This is actually one of my favorite Robert Stevens quotes, and that is, marketing is a tax for being unremarkable. And the less remarkable and less creative you are, the more you're going to have to spend on marketing to try and get people to do downloads. But if you are clever, you are unique, make sure you tell people about it. And that's why even when you're done writing your code, your job doesn't stop at code freeze. As indie developers, you can't just hand this off to a marketing department. Well, if you have a marketing department, you may not be an indie developer. Hand it off to the guy in your team who actually has a couple Facebook accounts set up for your shop. Because you need to start presenting your best foot forward. And you're going to be your own best resource when it comes to promoting what's really great and really unique about your game. So let's start looking at what is making a big difference in app stores today. The first is that a rose by any other name may not actually be recognizable as something you want to go and get. A good name makes a lot of difference. And we recently got some data from Chartboost and StoreMaven that backs up what we've seen in our App Store, and that optimizing your name can actually increase conversions for your App Store by 22%. What you see over here is an example from one of the apps that I've got. This is an Alexa voice services app that you can run on your Amazon Echo. When I first launched one, it was a Famous Quotes for You. Famous Quotes for You didn't really do that well, so I tried changing the name. I submitted a second app with the name Founding Fathers Quotes, and Founding Fathers Quotes actually did a lot better, considerably more than 22% better. And heck, if a name can make a lot of difference, boy, just wait till you get to the icon. This slide is an audience participation slide. What I want you to do is take just a few seconds and tell me which 3 or 4 icons you think are from top devs and which are from really kind of junior devs or Garage Studio devs. All right, don't take too long. Here's the answer. Okay, which ones are from top devs? It doesn't matter which ones are from top devs, because what I just asked you to do is exactly what your customers are going to be doing. When they enter a search term into an app store, the results that they get back, the most prominent thing is going to be the app icon. And you're going to get about 0.2 of a second before the customer, your potential customer, decides that either you're a serious player with high-level skills or you're kind of a garage band of app development. So it doesn't really matter which one is best or which one is from a Fortune 500 company. As a matter of fact, if you look in the bottom row, third one over from the left, That's actually a Fortune 500 banking company, and quite a lot of people actually mistake that one for a GarageBand home finance app. So you can be big or small, but you still need an app icon that's puts your best foot forward. So I did a little bit of experimenting with that too. After I changed the name on my app, I decided I would go ahead and take the icon you see on the bottom. I am no designer. I don't pretend to be a designer. And I went out to 99designs.com, where I paid $100 and had a designer come up with the icon you see up on top there. Much better looking icon. And I actually got some pretty good results from that. Chartboost Store Maven actually says that if you do your icon optimization, you can increase conversion between 8 and 17%, depending on the app store in which you're doing the optimization. Now, I'd like to share with you my experience in how this has worked out for my app. There you go. When I did this in my app, what we ended up with is a little bit hard to see. I'll go ahead and talk you through this. There's a black line and a blue line on the chart. And when I had both apps in the store, they were both getting fewer than 100 downloads a day. But when I changed the name on one of them from Quotes for You to Founding Fathers Quotes and ran a Facebook campaign, I promoted both apps equally. I definitely got a big spike on unique users when I changed the name on the app. Unfortunately, you can see that spike didn't last a whole lot longer than the 24-hour campaign that I had put in place, and it trailed back off to just a little bit better than where it was before. So the next thing I did was I tried a Twitter campaign, and apparently my Twitter connections for my own app business aren't hugely fantastic. And I only got a little tiny bump in the unique users. But that's when I changed the icon. And when I changed the icon from that bell that I came up with to the Founding Father Quotes bell, I got a significant change in unique users. And when it started tailing off, the bump I got, it started tailing off considerably higher than it ever was before. So I decided what would happen if I went ahead and did another Facebook campaign on that same app. Remember, my code hasn't changed. All I've done is change the name, now change the icon, and I did another Facebook campaign, and I got significantly better results than the Facebook campaign. The same parameters for the campaign, the same ad spend, the same APK, or the same code. All I changed was the name and the icon. Made a huge difference in my app. So if you're considering maybe doing this or maybe not doing this, it would be a fantastic idea to go ahead, do this, and then optimize that so that you can see what big a difference it makes for your app. All right, if that's just the name and the icon, imagine what you could do when you have a screenshot. Now, here are a couple screenshots I'd like to show you. Chartboost and Store Maven tell us that if you do some good screenshot optimization, you can actually increase conversion rate to about 35% over what you're getting without optimized screenshots. Now, what's important about a screenshot? It's important to show gameplay. It's important to show what makes your game unique and interesting. Show actions, not menus. Honestly, nobody plays a menu. Nobody plays a login screen, so why would you bother to show that? And it's also okay to annotate the screenshots. For example, in the top screenshot, which is Madden Football, there's a lot of action going on, but, oh wait, here. Actually, it's a lot easier to see what's going on when you can actually see the annotation here. A lot of really great games made by indie devs have good action-oriented screenshots, but it's hard to tell what's happening without the annotation. Take a look at Hearthstone below, and it actually gives you a little bit of a description while showing you some of the cards that are really beautiful and that make the game kind of unique, fun, and interesting to play. So if you can get that kind of benefit just from improving your screenshots, try adding video. Just adding video is going to give you between a 19 and a 35% lift in the number of people who will download your slides. Now, if you optimize your video, you can get another 22% lift. One of the things that's important about optimizing the video is just going from a plain video of the game to actually annotating it. Now, unfortunately, the tool that we're using doesn't really do a good job of sharing video from my desktop, particularly video and audio. But I am going to go ahead and share this deck with you later so that you can go ahead and click on these links and see different steps in optimized videos. So the first video basically just is a shot of the game playing. It's great. There's not this huge trailer. There's just the app. Video 2 does a little bit better because it has annotations, text annotations. 3 is even better than that because it now has voiceover explaining what's going on. And funny is also good. Video 4 is one of my favorite trailers because it's got a really catchy tune and it's really funny, and it got me to go ahead and download the app. So when you make a video and you show gameplay, there are some things you just really have to do here. Make sure that you don't spend all of your time showing a cinematic trailer. A lot of games that are really intense and have a lot of action have this beautiful cinematic trailer that precedes them. And I remember I was doing some game judging, and one of the game promos that we watched was this beautiful 90-second promo. And by the time we finished, I think he showed like 2 seconds of the game actually playing. And okay, that's lovely, but I mean, I don't play menus or login screens. I certainly don't play a cinematic trailer. So really, please show gameplay. As a matter of fact, here are some of the things that you've really got to show in your video when you make one. Show us a level. Tell the customers what you're showing, because I may not know how to play the level. I may not know what the core game mechanic is. So please do show a level and show how the core game mechanic works. Show what makes your game unique. If you have a match 3 game, how is it going to be different than just every other match 3 game out there unless you spend time showing us part of the mechanic or the game loop that really makes your game different than all the rest of the ones out there? After you've shown us what's unique and special about your game mechanic or game loop, show us what's going to keep us interested for hours on end. What's going to make it more interesting than just play once and then forget? In other words, how are you going to keep your users engaged and interested? Make sure you show us a little bit of that. Sometimes it might be as easy as your character gets to level up and you get to buy special equipment for your character, so you have some investment in there. Or maybe there are some really cool changes to the gameplay or game mechanic after you've been working at it for a while. Something really interesting happens with the puzzles that are available. Certainly, if you just show us something that doesn't distinguish it from every other game, well, it'll be treated just like every other game, and it'll really hurt in your downloads. So if these are the things you really have to do to distinguish your game in a video, what should you avoid doing? Well, avoid these things. Most customers really don't care where you went to school or what jobs you had. So putting your resume up on a game video or on a game trailer is a bad idea. I know you guys are thinking, who does that? No one actually puts their resume up on a video. I wouldn't be mentioning it if I didn't see it. What happens a lot more frequently is that I see login screens and menu pages up on demo videos. That's not good. Again, we covered nobody plays those things. And honestly, when you do a voiceover for a video, you can really amplify how fun it is. You can describe what's going on, give a lot of rich context to the game that you've built, or you could be telling the customer how you and your team of 2 people worked really hard on this game and how come you're so deserving for a chance. It's a lovely story, but again, turns out that the customers don't care about that. They want to know why the game's going to be super fun for them, not why you're so deserving of a chance. So really, do put your best video forward and make sure that everything pops. You'll be very happy that you did, and you'll end up seeing that 22% lift we talked about. Okay, other than name, icons, and videos, those are the big 3. Those are the 3 things that are going to make the biggest difference to spend your time optimizing on your App Store listing site. What else is going to work? Particularly if you have a premium game, a really fun and informative description is going to take you a long way. Now, there's been a lot of debate about whether you should have a really short description that doesn't take too long to read, or whether you should have a longer description that goes into a fair amount of detail. Honestly, you kind of want both. The first couple sentences really need to be short and self-contained. It's kind of like reading a news article in the paper, where the first paragraph is going to contain everything you need to know about the story, and if that's all you read, you'll have a pretty good idea of what the story is about. But if you want more information, you can continue reading into the article for a lot more depth and detail. Your app description should be the same thing. And think of it kind of like a dating profile. In that first couple sentences you've got to be funny, you've got to be clever, you've got to tell people why your game is different and interesting and really fun. The theme or the tone that you set in your app description is going to be what people expect to see when they play your game. So if they read really dull, boring, and dry, they're going to expect really dull, boring, and dry when they play your game. So please spend some time getting your app description done properly. It's a little less important for freemium games than it is for premium games. But boy, for premium games, it's absolutely critical that you do that, because people will read the product description before they part with money on a premium game. Okay, there is also one more thing. It turns out makes a fairly big difference in the conversion rate on your app detail page. Your app listing is going to get a lot more views if you have a large catalog of apps in that app store. Because when you search for a game by a studio, you'll end up getting other results similar to that game from the same studio. If you have liked a game, or if you have given a game a good star rating or reviewed a game, games from that publisher are going to show up more often in your App Store results. So making sure that you have a lot of your games, all of your games, if you like them, should absolutely be in the catalog of all the app stores you want to be in. So that's gonna make a big difference in the number of times your listing is seen, and getting your listing seen is the first part in having that listing be effective. So I've tossed a lot of stuff out there at you in a relatively short period of time. So I want to go ahead and just recap quickly some of the most important things that are going to make a difference in your listing. First of all, your icon. The icon has got to be memorable. One of the things I like to think about an icon is your icon has to be hangover proof. All right. What does it mean if I'm saying your icon needs to be hangover proof? Well, think about going out and having a drink with some friends, or you're at a social mixer, and somebody shows you this really amazing game that they're playing. They tell you what the name is, they show you how great the game is, and you're thinking, this is fantastic. I'm going to go download that. So when you wake up in the morning and you try to go get the game, you've completely forgotten what the name is. It's Ninja Turtle something, or it's Turtle Ninja, or there's somewhere there's a turtle and there's a ninja in there somewhere, so you can type in what you think you've got. But then you see the icons. And if the developer has done a good job of working with the designer and selecting the right icon, you can say, hey, that's what I was playing the other night. That's the game that I really liked. None of these rip-off titles or rip-off brands, but that one, the one with that memorable icon. So your icon needs to be hangover proof. The name. Make sure the name reinforces your brand if you have one. You've gone to a lot of work to develop intellectual property and IP recognition if you've done a series of games. So leverage that when you make a name for your current game. Angry Birds has done a great job of this. The first game, Angry Birds, was just Angry Birds. But when they came up with a game where you shoot upset fowl through outer space and around planets, they didn't call it Space Birds. They didn't call it anti-pigs in space. They call it Angry Birds Space. Having that franchise named anything other than Angry Birds dash something just doesn't make any sense anymore, does it? They've really done a good job of establishing Angry Birds as a brand name. If you have a similar universe that your games take place in, leverage that universe and get some consistent branding in the app name that you can work on. If you've got a hero that goes from place to place or a team of people that goes from place to place, leverage that in the name and make sure you can get some recognition. There's frequently a question or two around whether a short one-word name or a longer multi-word name gives you any advantage in App Store search results. The answer is unfortunately not black and white. There's just no statistically significant difference that I'm seeing in App Store conversion based on short names or long names. So I can't give you a definitive answer on that one. Screenshots. If you're showing something that's not action, it's probably the wrong screenshot. Make sure you have a screenshot in there that shows something that's pretty unique about your game as well. But if it's not action, don't make it the first screenshot. Videos. Show me what's unique about your game. Show me why your Match 3 game is different. Now, if it turns out that your Match 3 game is really cool because you can launch the third tile that you need to match from a slingshot and you have to be really good at flinging objects across the screen to get them to match up, well then talk about that in the video as an overlay or as a talkover or as a voiceover, or you make sure you talk about that in the description. It's okay to say in your description that your game is a cross between Angry Birds and Match 3, where you need to fire bricks into the Match 3 game to create matches. That's a good description, and it'll help get your app indexed with people who like that Match 3 game or who like that mechanic of Angry Birds. As long as you are being truthful and as long as you're being accurate, we're probably not going to go ahead and ask you to change that when we review the app description when we're looking at your app to go into the App Store. So if it's accurate, go ahead and use that because it's good to relate the known to the unknown so that if your game is an unknown, relate things that people are familiar with to it. It'll help them get it. As a matter of fact, that's actually probably a pretty good game idea, kind of crossing Angry Birds and Match 3, flinging bricks into a field of play to match them up. That might actually be kind of fun to play. Hey, let me know if one of you guys wants to write that game. I'd be interested in being a tester on that. That would be a fun game to work on. All right, guys, that's pretty fun. And as you can see, the icon that I like here is Dumb Ways to Die. That turns out to be the trailer number 4 that you can see when you guys get the slides later. Make sure you go ahead and take a look at that. That's a really amusing trailer, and it's fun, and it shows how that you can have a fun trailer that's pretty effective. So I will certainly take the time now to answer the questions that you've asked. If you want to continue the conversation moving forward, I'm more than happy to do that. Go ahead and reach out to me on Twitter at Mike F. Hines. And if you'd like a more detailed walkthrough on creating a really good product description, go to bit.ly/Amazon detail page or App Store detail page. Going to bit.ly App Store detail page gives you a good walkthrough on things that should be in your app description that work well for promoting apps that you charge for premium apps. So let me go ahead and take a look at the questions that are in the queue, and let me read through some of these, and I will start answering those. It's true. There was a good question brought up in that if you actually use the formal name of a game that's trademarked in your product description, they will go ahead and pull that and not let you use that. So you would have to use like a match 3 game or a flinging or a toss game and use that description so that it doesn't get pulled. And that's a good point. Thank you for that. Is it a waste to use a word in your keywords if you already use that word in your app name? In all the app stores that I'm familiar with, that would be duplicative. Certainly everything in your app name and your app description is being indexed for use in the search engines in those app stores. So using unique words or unique descriptors that aren't in your app description or in your app name is a good way to use those keywords. That's a great question. Thank you. Here's a kind of a couple fairly basic questions about the Amazon App Store, which I'm actually more than happy to answer. Yes, the Amazon App Store does accept Android APKs. As a matter of fact, there's a really good chance that all you need to do is submit the APK to the store, and it'll just work. If you use in-app purchasing, you'll need to use the Amazon in-app purchasing API instead of, say, the Google Play in-app API, but that's a relatively quick thing to swap out. If you go to developer.amazon.com, you can go ahead and find a self-tester where you can drag your Google APK over to an Amazon app tester, and it'll let you know in about 90 seconds if there is anything you need to change and how that works. The other Amazon App Store related question I had here was, am I going to describe Amazon Underground? That's a good presentation in and of itself, but Amazon Underground is neat because it's a different way to monetize. Most of us are familiar with premium, freemium, and ads. Amazon Underground will actually pay you for every single minute that every single user is in your app. So if you go to developer.amazon.com/underground, you can learn more about how much you get paid and what it takes to get paid for every minute that every user spends in the app. Thanks, guys, for those questions. I appreciate it. Here's another question about the importance of keywords and how a good keyword factors in. So that's actually a really good question. Let me spend a little bit of time on that one. I know that there are lots of tools out there that will help you find what the most searched for keyword is. And a lot of developers will want to put those keywords, either bury them somewhere in their app description or put them in a keywords list where that's available. That can be problematic. When you take a look at some of those keywords that are listed, game, free, and fun tend to come up frequently. Now, while all of those may be true about your freemium game, they hardly narrow down the field. And what you'll get is an absolutely enormous result set that probably isn't going to have you anywhere near the top. And that's problematic because you know when you're looking for games, you don't dive down too deep in that listing before you've made a choice to do a different search or you've picked a game that you want to grab. Far more important is a keyword that separates you from the crowd. So if you have a hidden object game that takes place on a beachfront resort or in a log cabin out in the woods somewhere, go ahead and put down hidden object. If hidden object is not already in your title or in your product description, put down hidden object as a keyword. Make sure you put down beach or cabin as a keyword as well. While it may not necessarily be in the title or it may not be in the description, putting down those things that distinguish your app from others, like other hidden object games, is really important. For example, if your match 3 game is suitable for kids, one, that should probably be in your product description so people get a hold of that. Might even be in your title. But make sure you put kids, children's, youth, and other things in your keywords list that are big hits. So one, take all of the synonyms for kids that you can find. Go ahead and see which ones are getting really good hits when in the third-party tools that help you figure out keyword rankings, and go ahead and put those in so that people who are looking for games for their kids or games for somebody's children, that will pop up in your keyword results. Let me look more into the questions here. Oh, yeah. Every time this one person submits an app to an app store, they get buried under spam emails from app store optimization companies, claiming that if you pay them a ton of money, they will actually help you increase the ranking. It's true. If you don't want to do any of the App Store optimization work on your own, they'll be happy to do that for you. What they're doing is, in most cases, very similar to what I've explained in the webcast we've just looked at. They will go ahead and they will do testing either with people that they know, or they'll go ahead and use the Google Play A/B testing that you can do on their listing page. And they will go ahead and do that work for you, and they will not just put up a video, but they will actually help optimize the video. I don't know if all of the ASO providers will actually annotate screenshots and videos for you. I'm pretty sure they won't do video production and voiceover as a large group, but some of them may offer that as a special service. Some of the better ASO companies out there actually do a good job of building data and building statistics. What they understand is how big a change needs to be to move the needle. So if you make a relatively small change on an icon and you see that it doesn't move the needle, you may think that you're already optimized. ASO companies have enough experience to realize how big and how radical a change needs to be in order to generate statistically significant differences in conversion rates. And they'll do a good job of sharing that data with you because they've done a good job of instrumenting their tests, and then they will share those results with you. If you're interested in finding a really good ASO company to work with, those are some of the questions to ask. How do you decide on the scope of change? What do you recommend that I change? Do you give me metrics on what kind of change was made and whether it was statistically significant or not? So while they'll do the same things I talked about, they've got a lot more experience at doing those and can probably cut some time off of your experimentation cycle on that. Let's see. Oh, there was a quick question when I was showing the screenshots. They were actually both good screenshots. The screenshot from Madden, when I exposed the fact that it was annotated, that was pretty good. The point I was trying to make by kind of hiding the annotation at first was, when you looked at that top screenshot, it just looked like a lot of football players and lines running around. But when you show the annotation, it gives a little bit of context to what you're seeing on the screen. So you guys may have a really neat, fun, never-seen-before game mechanic. And showing people a picture of that, while pretty cool, lacks context. And if you've got a screenshot, annotating that with text is absolutely the right thing to do to give the customer some context about what amazing stuff they're seeing. In a video, absolutely explain what's going on. You don't really have time to play through an entire tutorial level. That may not be exciting enough and it may not compel the user. But certainly show an exciting level where there's action, and then do a voiceover or at worst text annotation on the video to make sure it gets context. So that's what I was trying to do with that slide right there. All right, let me check to see if any new questions have come in. Is there a relation between in-app purchasing in the game and rankings? I don't know that there is. I've never actually looked for any correlation between the kinds of in-app purchases. In other words, does having a big in-app purchase help inside the game? I've never actually done a study to find out if the price point or number of price point items has any relation to rankings in the different app stores. Interesting. That would be an interesting thing to take a look at to see if there is actually a statistically significant correlation. If you have specific questions on games that you have in our App Store or others and are looking for tips, I'd be more than happy to work with you on that. Go ahead and reach out to me. Ping me on Twitter at Mike F. Hines, and I'd love to go over that so that we can kind of share that knowledge. Or if you want to do it more privately, maybe because your game hasn't been released yet, I'll go ahead and we can do private messages, or we can pick that up in email. I'd be happy to do that with you guys. Thank you. Hey, yeah, here's a good thing to do. Should I try altering the game description occasionally to see if it affects downloads? Absolutely try that. We don't have a way to A/B test your App Store listing yet. Google Play does. And so absolutely go ahead and leverage the tools that they have, because the data you find out by doing that A/B testing on Google Play will certainly work in the Apple App Store and the Amazon App Store as well. So certainly try big changes at first. I think you'll find that big changes will give you smaller results maybe than you were expecting for. So changing just a few words here and there probably won't result in a statistically significant meaning. However, if you change the tone, go from something very serious and fact-based to something very tongue-in-cheek based, that is big enough to have a difference that I think you'll really see and appreciate. And you can see what really resonates with your customers best that way. Here's a question. I get this question pretty consistently when I do a talk like this. How do you get your app listed or featured in the Amazon App Store, or actually in any app store? Well, it's pretty straightforward, actually. Think about it from the team that owns that listing section. They have their goal is to make sure that our customers are absolutely delighted. And we want our Amazon customers to be absolutely thrilled with what they get from the App Store. So what we want to do is we want to put apps up there in those feature slots that we think have the best chance of getting downloaded by a large number of people and will absolutely thrill the people who download it. What this means is if you have a fairly niche app, let's say that you have a advanced guide for bowlers in cricket. That is a fairly niche audience in the U.S. And while it may be an excellent app and absolutely phenomenal at helping people bowl in cricket, it's probably not going to get featured in the Amazon App Store simply because it wouldn't delight enough customers. It would be taking up a slot that we could use to really help a lot more customers get apps that they'll be delighted with. So one, if it's an incredibly niche app, it's probably got less of a chance of getting featured. If you've got an app with mass appeal, how many other apps are out there just like that? For example, Match 3 games have a lot of mass appeal. And if you make yet one more Match 3 game thinking that you're going to get featured in the App Store, that's kind of challenging. We need to know what is uniquely different and uniquely special about your game that is absolutely going to delight customers in ways that they might not normally expect from a Match 3 game. So make sure that when you do decide to submit a request for merchandising, that you make the case for why your game is going to absolutely delight the App Store's customers. If you have won several awards from indie prize competitions, absolutely make sure that you mention that in any appeal you make for marketing. If you've been nominated as a finalist in any of the competitions, say a very big indie pitch or indie prize with Casual Connect, make sure you mention that. If your app is really well rated on some of the other app stores, make sure you bring that up too. Hey, we have 275 ratings. We've got a 4.5-star rating on this other app store. We really think that your customers would get a lot of enjoyment out of this particular Match 3 with flinging game mechanic. So please feature it in your app store. Making a case for your game to delight the customer is absolutely the way to go to increase your chances of getting featured. Letting anybody know how much you deserve it, how hard you worked, or being angry that nobody is promoting indies as much as they ought to be, doesn't really help, because app stores are trying to make a majority of their customers happy with those slots. So go after the making the customer happy angle. Let's see. Let me read some other questions here. Again, a question about indexing. Yes, anything in the title or the product description all gets indexed in the search terms. If your app has been published for some time, is it too late to optimize the icon? I found that it wasn't too late to optimize the icon because, unfortunately in my case, it was like the app had never been released. Nobody had actually seen it. And that was really too bad. So when I did optimize for the name and the icon, it started getting more attention, and it started working its way up in the rankings. Opportunities you have to do changes in the detail page that may make a bigger difference is when you make a code change, when you release a V2 or where you release some extra downloadable content. Take that opportunity to promote the fact that you've got new code, new content, by updating your app detail page, by updating your listing with some new icons or new graphics, screenshots, videos, or product description. So when you update what's available to the customer, take that opportunity as well to update what's on your product page. All right, let me go back to the end here and check. The category you choose for your game. How does that affect ranking? For example, if you have a game that is supposed to be educational for kids, should you call that an educational game or should you call that a kids game? And how is that going to affect the ranking? Take a look, and each app store is going to be a little bit different on this, because app stores might have a different collection of things in kids' games that are more entertainment and less educational than they do in their education games section. Take a look for your competitors. Where are your competitors? If a majority of your competitors are in education, not in kids, there's a good chance that they're there because that's where parents are looking for apps that they may want to get their kids. That's where people tend to be looking for it. In that sense, being where your competitors are is a pretty helpful thing. If yours is on the edge and it's not really similar to a lot of your nearest competitors, being different might actually be a good thing. So you might end up in kids' apps. But remember that if parents are looking for something educational, they may very well be in education for a good reason, and they wouldn't necessarily look under kids. There's a good chance, however, that they will search in both categories before they're done. If you're fairly unique and there aren't a lot of apps very much like yours in a given category, you have the opportunity to stand out when they constrain their search on the apps in that category. So absolutely take your time to do a little bit of research to find out what similar apps are in which category, and then decide whether you want to be in this category because that's where people are going to look for it, in which case you should be there, or if it's cross context, if it's cross-category enough that you want to be somewhere where you're really going to stand out based on the keywords that you pick. That was a good question. Thank you for that. Some more questions about people who have individual apps they want to ask about. Again, please ping me. That works. Is there a link that we can submit to request a feature? Yeah, there is. Actually, if you go to developer.amazon.com/welcome or any of the developer.amazon.com sites, you will see a Contact Us link near the bottom of the page. The Contact Us link is pretty important. That's how you communicate with actual real-life human beings at Amazon. The people, real-life human beings who answer Contact Us actually used to work on the floor where I work. I know these people. And what they'll do is they'll take a look at the question. If it's a question that they think that they've answered before, you're likely to get a copy-paste response from a similar question that we think answers yours. If it turns out that your question is subtly different, or if it turns out you have a really unique original question, you'll go ahead and you'll get a personalized response. So when you have a feature request, make a good case for why that feature is important to you and developers like you. For example, if you'd like to go and submit a request for A/B testing in your product listing, I'd really be supportive if you did that. If you went to Contact Us and submitted a request for A/B testing in product listing pages, as an app developer myself, I would love to have had that available on the Amazon App Store. And the more of you that do that, the better. Just kind of don't let them know right off the bat that I asked you guys to do that, otherwise they'll come and yell at me. All right, but okay, hopefully we'll cut that part out of the recording. But that's a good question, guys. Thank you very much. All right, we are pretty close to the end now, so please, if you like, fill out the survey at the end of the presentation. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And stay tuned to your mailbox. Every registered attendee is going to get a link to the PowerPoint deck and to the recording of the presentation. So thank you very much for your attention this afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed your first day back from Memorial Day, for those of you who celebrated it in the States. For those of you who are joining us from around the world, thank you very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.